Hello YouTube. Today we'll be taking a quick look at Precision XOC, or I'm pretty sure it stands for Extreme Overclocking. And what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be teaching you how to overclock your graphics card, and just really simple, quick and easy tutorial. This is the newest model that I'm aware of, so it should be up to date, and it'll work with any EVGA graphics card you have. And if you do like the other one, which is MSI Afterburner, then you can use that as well. EVGA cards also work on that one, just your preference. But today I'll be covering the EVGA Precision XOC. Alright, so the graphics card I will be using today is this. It's the EVGA GTX 1060, 6GB. And it's also the SSC version, as you saw earlier. That's important, and it'll come up later. So, without doing any testing, you just want to see whether or not, just how to get the ropes of it, what you can do to increase your performance. You know, it varies from card to card. I should know that because you may get better results with a Founders Edition card than my card, because the thing is, different cards are clocked differently, especially EVGA versus another brand or anything like that. Now, with mine, I have the super clocked edition, which means that it already comes pretty much top of the notch, as fast as it's going to get kind of deal. So I can fiddle around with overclocking and maybe get a higher score in artificial benchmarking software like Superposition, but really for an amazing performance, like a noticeably bigger performance, I'm probably not going to get as much of one as you would if you had, another, like maybe a Founders Edition card, or just like I don't know, something that's not super clocked, because, you know, it's pretty much already overclocked out of the box. But for those of you that want to know how to do it, and by no means am I, like, god tier at this stuff, but, you know, I mean, for people that want to know everything about it, then this could help you, right? So first things first, you get the power target. You can crank that up, keep it at 100%, and what that'll do is it increases the amount of wattage going to your GPU, and that'll help to make sure that it can stay at its certain clock speed without having to power throttle, which means it doesn't have enough power getting to it, so it can't even reach that. And that's really important, especially if you want to go above its normal core clock, because what that'll do is it'll allow it to, you know, perform at a higher level. Another thing that's very important is over here, the fan speed, because as you'll notice as I'm cranking up this bar here, and I'm sorry it is a little bit small, doesn't increase any bigger on my screen, but as you increase the power target, your temperature also goes up, and what that'll do is it will make your card hotter, obviously. But one way to combat that, you do have to sacrifice a little bit of sound, but you can crank up the fan speed. Yes, my card especially gets super loud, and you can put water cooling on there or something like that to make it cooler so you can do this high stuff. But normally, I would feel that unless you're going at it for like more than a few hours, the auto fan curve should be plenty. Normally I have it running on the lowest possible RPM for the fans. It'll be fine. Just keep an eye on the temperatures in case it gets above that certain point. And then when it starts getting maybe in the 80s, you might want to consider cranking up that fan speed, or maybe dialing back your overclock a little bit to make sure that your part stays alive as long as possible. The next thing you can do, so I'm going to put this back down, is GPU clock offset. And what that does is it just increases the GPU clock, right? Pretty simple stuff, makes your GPU perform a little bit better, as well as the memory clock. If you want really specific information as to what that is, I will not be going there too in depth. This is just purely what it does and how you can use it. But one tip when overclocking, you want to make sure that you increase GPU clock and memory clock separately, and every time you increase it any little bit of an increment, go into an artificial benchmarking software. What I would recommend is, if you don't want to pay for anything like 3D Mark or anything like that, Cinebench R15, really good for CPU. I use it. And then Superposition Benchmark. You can get GPU benchmarks. You just download it off of Google. You don't have to pay for anything. There is a paid version that has stress testing and all that stuff, but unless you really want that type of thing, if you want a simple benchmark, run it. If it crashes, you probably increase it too much, or you need to increase your power target. And then once you get to a certain point in which you feel like your card can run a game for a little bit or just function normally, then keep it at that certain point, and then increase your memory clock offset, and then do the same thing, repeat, and then when you get to a certain point where you feel comfortable again, go with that. And then over here, you may notice that there is the voltage meter, and what this does is it increases the stability of your card. It will also increase the heat, and you want to be careful because the more you crank it up, the more dangerous it gets for your components. Normally it's at 0%. I think it's the offset. So if you're cranking it up pretty high for a game that your computer can barely run, then I'd recommend moving the fan speed up a lot, as well as keep an eye on the temperatures, and make sure that you do test it a lot of times to make sure your card doesn't crash during any testing. Also, be very careful with how much you use this slider. I personally haven't gone above 25% just because I don't feel like it's in my, I don't feel comfortable with it. You guys can do whatever you want. You can even crank it up to, what is the highest? 100% if you really wanted to. Wouldn't recommend it even if you hover over it. It warns you that it can stabilize it, but it can also damage your parts. So again, be very careful with that. But what I've done over testing, I have a whole sheet of paper. Every test I do, fan speed, voltage meter, everything. I'd recommend keeping a log of it so you know what you've done the best on. And I just simply went and did superposition benchmark over and over and over and over. It takes maybe, I would say, about an hour. I know, sounds pretty rough, sounds pretty unfun, but if you really want to get the most out of your card, I'd recommend doing it. It's a pretty good way to get anywhere. And it's pretty simple to apply any of your changes to this. You just got to click the apply button. Pretty self-explanatory there. But cranking up the fan speed, you might be able to hear it in the background. The GPU or the graphics card does get very, very loud. And it looks like my mic is picking it up. Not sure how that's going to turn out in the video, but it does get pretty loud. And if you don't want that to happen, you can adjust it. Type in the percent that you want, and so forth. Another thing you can do is type in the amount of increase that you would like here, such as +0, and that way you can get it really, really customized and such like that. But again, do it in small increments. I think it goes up by 13 every click. So what I managed to figure out is I think I can get like 97-ish with 109 for the memory clock offset, or opposite of that. I'll have to check my records, and that's why it's important to keep a record so you can remember this stuff, or keep a note on your computer somewhere, or even down here you can have different profiles. So use what's given to you, use the software. It also has Overclock Scan. I'm not going to be getting into that because I'm not familiar with it. I don't want to feed you guys false information. And then I'm pretty sure K-Boost is where it determines the maximum, like absolute maximum your card can go. And it just works from that. Now, I have not used it because you have to close out of all your 3D programs. It's a pain. I mean, you can try it out if you want. Again, I didn't really notice a big difference, so I'm not going to go there with that. And then you can also adjust your fan curve, I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure how that works, though, because some of the other softwares make it a little bit easier for that. But I feel like this is a good one because you can straight up adjust your fan speed. Pretty easy software to look at. And if you have any other EVGA parts like a water cooler. It fits the same design, and using these softwares you can sync up the LEDs. So not really a performance thing, just kind of like aesthetics. They do matter, especially if you want it to be able to be used properly and easily. And it has everything in pretty big writing, although you cannot expand it. You can only minimize it and exit out of it. It's still pretty good. And then also comes with a hardware monitor. If I drag it over here, and then you can, I don't want to get in the way here. You can choose pretty much everything that you want here, and then system, frame rate, frame time, monitor those, and then it'll all show up here. If I were to just like click on a bunch of random stuff here, and then you can scroll down. You can, this one does actually expand. Don't know why they didn't add it onto the other one, but you can check out your hardware so you can have it on a second monitor. Normally I just do monitoring of temperatures on NZXT cam. I don't know. I really only need to know the temperatures to make sure that my components are not dying on me while I'm playing Call of Duty or Fallout or any other game. So, whatever you want to monitor, it is extremely customizable, as you can see right here. So, overall, would recommend using the software. Not like other softwares don't come with a hardware monitor. It's just I feel like this one's pretty good, and it does work with EVGA cards specifically. I think it's more optimized for them. So whatever you want to do, and you can set back to default as well. So just a really quick overview of what this software is, really basics of overclocking. If you want any more in-depth like comparison, I'm gonna make that in my next video, where I'm gonna show you guys gaming at a normal just zero overclocking, and then overclocking it to what I'd recommend for myself that I've tested over time, showing you guys that, and then also showing you the process it takes to find your perfect overclock, such as going through superposition multiple times and making sure that it doesn't crash on you during any point of the test. So the test is like a couple minutes. It kind of is a pain to sit through, but I don't know, it looks kind of cool. I mean, it's not boring to sit through, so that's always a positive. And you'll know that you're getting the most out of your card. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.